What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Cheeky Midweeky, where we are making strength and conditioning not boring anymore, and we do that by highlighting the practitioners that make this the best field in athletics. Today we have Coach Kerry Thompson from Alabama State on the show. Coach and I got connected through Coach Jeff Dillman. Kerry, thanks for coming on the show today. There's a lot of other things you could be doing. As we talked off air, you got track and field and football home game. Thank you for coming on and allowing me to learn from you and everybody else.
Hey man, I'm glad to be here, man, and thanks for having me on. Shout out to Jeff Dillman for connecting us, and let's have some fun today, man.
So my question to you is, starting off with, you said you had the developmental group training in early this morning. How have you seen the development? And people keep talking nowadays with NIL. There's no more development in college football. In your perspective, what does that look like for you? Is there development? Is there not development? And how can we make this better?
There is development. It just really depends on the culture that you're trying to create within the program with kids. So biggest thing is going to be is just getting them to buy in and show them how that this works.
Yeah.
Good thing that happened last year with our developmental guys is that they're now playing. And so they really were a big part in letting our new developmental guys know that, hey, without us still in that off-season, in-season last year, that they wouldn't be where they are physically and where they are contributing to the football team and playing a role with, getting reps and things like that. As far as development in NIL, it's tricky because everyone's always looking for the greener grass. And you have to kind of keep guys like grounded enough to know that the grass is going to be greener where you water it. But also keeping it, 100% real about NIL. Man, money talks. And with money talking, it's going to be a really big thing for us to make sure that we're staying true to who we are. And trying to make sure that we're trying to develop guys the best way we can. And if we end up losing some guys, we do. We did lose a very good wide receiver to Western Kentucky, and he is balling right now there as well. So I'm happy for the kid. We lost the safety to UAB. He went to UAB and turned his level up even another notch. I worked with Lyle Henley when I interned at UAB, and Lyle's like he's one of our better guys. So it really works out pretty well for us. Unfortunately, you're going to lose some guys because they're just super talented. But more so than not, as long as you play a part in their development, development happens.
Amen to that. And when you can kind of embrace it, because I spoke with a coach, a high school coach, that was talking about where certain colleges are like, hey, if you can come here and we develop you for 2 years and then you go on somewhere else, we did our job. And teams are starting to embrace that, hey, almost a JUCO mentality or a one and done mentality that happened in basketball. And they're just like, hey, this is what we're able to do. This is how we're able to help. Let us keep doing that. You know what I mean?
And unfortunately, it's kind of the way that things are happening right now, especially at FCS schools, is that we're kind of the new JUCOs in regards to guys getting a shot at the next level because they're productive on our level. And it's kind of gaining that understanding to say, hey, man, this is the way of the land right now. There's no point of whining and complaining about it. It happens. And unfortunately, we have to adapt to it. That's just how college football has evolved now.
Yeah, and so you talked about the track and field team. Are you in charge of the whole track and field team, or are you able to break? Like you said, you broke it up, but are other coaches, responsible for it with you?
I do have my staff that helps out with it, but track and field is a different beast altogether because, like you talked about, you got throwers, you got jumpers, you got sprinters, you got distance, you got mid distance, and each one of the coaches has different things and what they want to do. So I play, on one side of the puzzle, I allow them to let me know what they want done. If it doesn't make physiological sense, then we won't do it. We won't, today. There were 2 presses that I felt like one was going to be counterproductive to the other press. And so, I'm like, hey, coach, we need to make sure we have some posterior chain work in there. And fortunately, it's not an ego trip around here. Um, the coaches respect like my knowledge base, and so they're like, "Hey, look, if this is what you're saying, but I'm still giving them what they want, then
Yep.
we'll make it work, and we need to be at our best for the athletes anyway."
When you talked about the leadership and your staff, what does it mean to you having the assistant athletic director, like that title? Because that I'm starting to see that more and more with strength coaches, like, and it seems to be a positive growing trend. Can you speak to what that means and how strength and conditioning coaches can evolve and do their due diligence to be better and get those type roles?
You need CEUs to keep your certification as a strength and conditioning coach. At Strength Coach Network, both of our long form education courses come with CEUs to the NSCA, CSCCA, ASCA, and the NCSF. Click the link down below for more information about how our courses can help you keep your certification and you're able to learn from some of the biggest and brightest names in strength and conditioning.
Well, that title is a tricky title because we have to have the administrative side and the
Yep.
coaching side. The admin side is the more tricky part because it's more political. You know, the world of strength and conditioning is a straightforward world. The weight is the weight. 100 pounds is 100 pounds. 225 pounds is 225 pounds. And that is how it's going to work. With the political world, you have to be able to navigate people's egos and be able to also still get what you want, but give them what they want at the same time. So I think the biggest thing for us is in that role is that I still have a staff to lead. We also still have an athletic department that we
Yeah.
have to go to executive meetings and
Yep.
like unfortunately I have to miss some lifts and I have to lean on my staff to get them to, hey, look, like I need you to run this lift, I need you to run it at a high level, and that comes with the trust that I have in my staff. I have excellent staff. Actually just lost one of my staff members to Central State. He's a director now. And you want your staff, like when you have a great staff, you want to keep them together, but you also understand that you have to create a environment for them to be able to spread their wings and fly out and go as well. Fortunately for like Coach Thorpe, his name's Keon Thorpe. He's now at Central State. My associate director is Irvin McKenzie. My other assistants, Courtney Portis, my GA Bailey Greenlee, and I have a great staff of interns: Bea Asina, Jamal Gelsey, Chrislyn Hill, Josh Martin. Like I have a really good staff of guys and ladies that is diverse. We got black people, we got white people, we got men, we got women, we have Bea is from the Philippines. We have like just a wide range of personalities and experiences, and I think it helps us out a lot.
Yeah, I was definitely talking with Keon in messages when he was leaving because of he and I having a mutual um, person in our strength and conditioning tree that work together. Talk about how you're able to replace staff members, because like you said, it happens, and we need to be able to have good hiring practices. What are some things that in the interview process, because I remember somebody once told me, you're never really meeting the person, you're meeting their representative when you're in an interview. Like, how do you
Absolutely.
how do you interview well? How do you find people? Like, what are some of the processes that you implement that our listeners can apply, whether they're aspiring to be directors or they are in your position?
So the biggest thing right now, like even right now, right? I have the softball coach that's standing outside my office because she has a recruit that's coming in and she wants me to talk to her for about 3 minutes. So it's kind of like it's like, hey man, like you have to be multifaceted, but also getting to the bare bones of meeting people in the interview process is by following up with their references. Every strength coach is always one phone call away from knowing you or knowing
Amen.
something about you. So once I get I've gotten these applications in, I'm combing through them, and the people that aren't certified, unfortunately, I won't be able to interview because we have to put someone certified in that position. But on the other side of it, like their references, if I know someone that may know this person, or if I know someone that they're going to tell you the truth. That's the biggest thing in the strength coach world is that they're going to say, "Hey man, like, I don't know if you should hire this person. Like, this is my experience with them. It may not be yours. They may have changed. They may have grown, or they may not have. And it's the biggest thing that your role as a director is to make sure you get the right person to gel with your staff. And it has to make sense. And also, you have to be able to gel in the environment. Like, we're in HBCU, so there are going to be some things that move a little bit slower. That may not be like, we may not have all the glitz and glamour that they may have at other places, but we have what we have, and we have to be great with what we have. Fortunately for me, like, I have Connect Sun and I have Perch that's in now, and so I have some velocity based training and some things that we can do. Um, and we can make some things work the way it needs to work.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, TeamBuildr. TeamBuildr has been my online software platform choice since 2019. Been using it at Towson, using it at Goldfinch, and use it with my online remote clients. You can learn more about them in the link down below. TeamBuildr is also part owner in the Plyomat, which will allow you to get quick, valid, and reliable jump data, jump height, ground contact time, and reactive strength index in just seconds. They are part owner of Plyomat, so you can check them out in the link down below as well.
I just think the biggest thing is, like I said, with our staff, is making sure we get someone that comes in that can gel. It's more important, I've seen in a lot of different places, to hire someone that you can work with. You can teach people processes, but you can't teach people personality, and you can't teach them. Like, if I'm going to be in here 16 hours a day, I am one of the goofiest strength coaches out there. I love to laugh. We love to have a good time. We like to work too now, but you got to be around people that you can be around, and that's really important.
Well, to your point, coaching down in the SWAC, Mike Chapman, a friend of mine and former colleague, was down at Southern Miss, and we worked together at Towson, and talking about, like, anybody can coach in these rooms that have every technology you could ever want. But, like, he and I talked about this before, like, the good coaches can coach in rooms where you don't always have everything. And I think COVID exposed coaches that really do know how to program, because, all right, man, how are you progressing and regressing stuff if you don't have all the bells and whistles? Like, coaches that can coach there, to me, that's a great selling point where you're like, hey, man, come down here and work and prove that you know how to do it when you only have a bell or a whistle. And then it makes it even easier when you go have multiple bells and whistles.
That is the biggest thing. It's a slippery slope, right? Because a lot of coaches out there, like, they're the big name coaches that are going to always be able to get a job at, the big levels. And you got guys down, like, on the D2 level, the D3 level, or the FCS level, that don't necessarily get those opportunities, but have to program with limited resources and still be able to get the most out of athletes. And it's, you got to have a coach's eye. Like, we can tell if the bar, like, the perch will help us, but you still have to be able to see if that bar is moving fast enough. Hey, take some of that weight off. Or on the days that these athletes may have the juice or the sauce, like, hey, put a little weight on the bar so we can get the most out of you that day. But you got to be able to see that first. Like, yeah, it's great to have technology to help you with that. But if you don't have it, and I haven't had it, I've been at Allen University, I've been at Grambling State University, I've been at Clark Atlanta, I've been now here at Alabama State. I was with Fan Control Football, and each place I've had, this is the first opportunity I've had to have a sports science department that we created here. And so now, we'll be able to use those things, but I never want to be able to lose the ability to look at a guy and say, hey, that weight, or a lady, if that weight's too heavy for you today. Like, normally you maybe could squat 450 every time you walk in, but today you don't have it. And so we got to be able to visually regulate that to help our athletes get the most out of them.
How do coaches avoid that trap? Because I feel like technology, again, it is important, and there's obviously technology that I used at Towson and technology that I still use now and advocate using. How do we make sure that the younger generation, they don't lose the ability to develop their coaching eye and become so technology driven?
I think the biggest thing would be is to go to places Even if you just go to visit somewhere that doesn't have all that technology, just visit with coaches. I always feel like I can learn something from anyone. My intern here, Bea Asina, is one of the best people I've been around in regards to Microsoft Excel. I mean, when I tell you she smokes it, man, she's a great resource for all of the coaches here. Coach Irvin had her like rework his workout cards, and they look amazing and they function well. And so I'm always trying to learn something from everyone I'm around. And
Yeah.
Excel's been the biggest thing I've been trying to pick her brain about. It doesn't matter. People look at titles and think, or look at logos and think that these are the only places that you can learn from. In actuality, everyone has some type of knowledge that you can pull from and help. There have been coaches that have come down and, hey man, I just want to check the place out. I don't know if you know Terry Jones, but Terry Jones is he was with Cochran in Alabama. He was at
Yeah.
Alabama for 30 plus years. That's my
Yep.
mentor, and he was instrumental in me getting my first job. He came down here and sat in my chair and talked to my staff and walked the weight room and talked to them just how important it is to keep the coach's eye. So I think
Yes.
that's where it starts. It's just making sure that you're working that, but then also like a big way to help with coaching is coaching younger kids too. Um, Coaching younger athletes, even if you just like working a goblet squat or being able to progress a kid up, or taking your developmental group and progressing those kids up, but saying, hey, we're not going to put you on the perch, or we're not going to put you on on catapult today, or we're not going to do this. We're going to look at you. We're going to, like, even if we have to record you and then coach you up afterwards. It's so many different ways to just ensure that you never lose that coach's eye, because once you lose it, you might as well get out the field.
It's hard to like you got to have it. And that's for me. When I left Towson, I took about 6 weeks off when I was moving my family, but I got back into just training athletes one-on-one, and now back in the group setting and high school, because there's just something about, like, and every strength coach always has to turn their head sideways to be able to see something correct. Or is that just me? Like, I always turn my head sideways when I'm watching, like, somebody
Yeah,
squat or somebody do a clean. I'm like, all right, that looks good. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. And it's so big on that, man. Like you just never want to lose that, and having the coach's eye also gives you the ability to build relationships with athletes, because they know that you're paying attention to them, and that time with them is that time with them in that moment. And I think that's extremely important, man. And that's something that I never want to lose the ability to do that, because I think it's a big strength that I've had as a strength and conditioning coach, is that I can 100% build relationships with athletes that, initially they meet me and they're like, oh man, this guy's intense. But then they come and sit in here in the office and they're like, man, this guy is cool as hell. Like he is. But and that's something that, again, I absolutely like. The X's and O's of strength and conditioning aren't going to change.
nope.
70%, 70%, 70% of the max. And, some people, we want to rep max these guys. Oh, I don't believe in the max squat here. Man, whatever. At the end of the day, if you can't coach these kids, it don't matter how great or what you believe in, they ain't finna do nothing that you want them to do.
I I couldn't believe with you. I couldn't agree with you more, which was why I was laughing, because it was just so true. And you teed up my next question perfectly. Is you talked about relationships and the importance of relationships. Can you speak to our audience about how you go about forming relationships? Like, what are some simple tips and tricks that you do to learn new athletes' names and learn and how to genuinely care and connect? Because it's like, yeah, like it's not the fake, like, oh, try to, no, like when you genuinely care, athletes can tell. But what are some easy things that you can do to build relationships, help build cultures that you've done in your career?
I think the first thing is that before you coach someone, you ask them their name. Um,
Mm.
it is like, hey, what's your name? Oh, my name's TT. Okay, TT. Well, I'm Coach Thompson. I think right now you're doing a good job with your effort on the squat, but we got to fix your technique. All right. And they're like, okay, well, this man takes the time out to learn my name instead of just saying, hey, You're doing this wrong, right? And I always try to lead with honey before I, put a little vinegar in the drink. So like people will always appreciate the fact that you're noticing that they're trying. Like trying is everything. And it helps us out tremendously in a sense of like, hey, like, okay, well, I know this kid is actually trying to do everything that we're asking them to do. So now if we can fix the technique, they'll try even harder. That's a big thing for us. Also, like taking weights or doing the grunt work. As a director, I never want to get away from doing the grunt work. And my staff will tell you anything I ask them to do, I'll do. I'll take weights, I'll clean the weight room, I'll do literally any and everything that I ask them to do. So if that's the case, like I can take weights, I'm looking at the name and matching faces or asking, hey, like, where are you from? Or like, what are your goals? Like I sat down with our football team this summer individually one-on-one.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Hawkin Dynamics. I've had Hawkin Dynamics for multiple years, dating back to my time at Towson, and still utilize them here at Goldfinch when I'm training athletes in Iowa. Hawkin Dynamics makes it simple to be able to get input to find out what's going on underneath the hood with your athletes. Whether it's lower body assessment, upper body assessments, you want reliable data to find out how the athlete is putting force into the ground so you can be able to accurately return an athlete from an injury, and you can also find out how the athlete is producing force to check how your training is working. Check out Hawkin Dynamics in the link down below.
I have asked them a host of questions about their goals, what they want to accomplish, what's their why, things of that nature. And it's a tedious process, right? But some of these kids have gone through some stuff, man, and you're looking like, I know a couple of meetings, man, I had tears in my eyes listening to these kids and their why and what they've been through and how hard they've had to work to get to where they want to be. And it's just been like, whew. So, and it allows for you to connect with them on a personal level. So in the days that they come in and they don't have it, and you know their why, you can say, hey, like, is that going to help your mom get where you're trying to get her? Or, hey, is this going to like give you the legacy that you want to have? Or, hey, is this going to help us win a championship? Or, just knowing what makes them tick can allow you to push them and make them go. Also, learning how they like to be coached. Some of these kids cannot take like in front of everyone coaching. I have a kid on this team, man. I love him to death. But if you call him out in front of everybody, it's like an ego thing for him, right? But if I pull him to the side, I can say anything to him and he's going to like, I was like, hey, man, like stop BSing reps. And he'll be like, all right, coach, you're right. Like I can give more today. And he'll respond and he takes it off. And a lot of the coaches have kind of looked and like, man, like how were you able to like look? It's just a time that you have to spend with them, man. And it's, as a strength coach, like I know we spend so much time with these athletes on a whole different level. And it can be tough sometimes, time wise and trying to balance life out with everything else. But ultimately, it just takes time and effort to build relationships with kids as well as staff and coaches and everyone else around. You just got to take that time with them, and it's not a process you can rush.
You just again teed up a question. My question was going to be about, all right, how do you do it with coaches? Because to me, that like these two things are the secret to it. Like you said 70% is going to be 70%. The weight's going to be the weight. Like, sure, there's been certain technologies that have added and enhanced what we do, but like the tried and true principles are still the tried and true principles. So if you can get an athlete to connect with you and you can connect with the coach and the coach will buy in and you can have a good periodization model, and it all boils down to relationships. And that's why it's so important. How do you form these relationships with sport coaches? Is it a different strategy? Is it the same thing? How do you go about it and how do you recommend it?
So there was a coach here. I'll leave it nameless, but she is an extremely demanding coach. And coming in, people are like, oh, you need to be careful. You need to be careful. You need to be careful. And I don't subscribe to other people's opinions. I subscribe to my own experiences.
Mm.
And so she came in during a lift, and that's ultimately like a strength coach. No, it's like, please don't come talk to me during the lift because I'm trying to coach. Well, I just let her. Like hey coach, like I understand that you're just trying to find out when you can get your ladies in, but I can assure you that I'm not like strength coaches that may have been here before. Like, I care about each sport. I'm going to coach them all the same way. I'm going to give them everything I got every time they're in here. I say, just give me a couple of days to get with you as I get the schedule together. And she was like, she turned and she looked. She was like, okay. She gave me a couple of days. I didn't even take a couple of days. It literally took about 24 hours because I had literally just started. And like, we have probably the best relationship of any of the coaches that I have here. Just because she knows I care about her ladies. She knows I'm going to coach them hard. She knows that I'm not going to back off of them. Oh, we're tired today. But she also, like, we've built the relationship for her to trust me enough where I can tell her, hey, coach, when they came in today, they looked gassed. I could tell by their movement. So we used the day as a recovery day, and she's 100% on board. We're like always on the same page. If there are things that she sees, like, oh, I think they need, I think our core strength's lacking a little bit. And like, hey, coach, cool. We will handle that on our side. And, and we're always on the same page. And it's been something, everyone won't always enjoy you. And that used to,
I'm laughing
that
because
used,
that's me.
oh man, that used to bother me so bad that I couldn't get along with everybody because I think I'm pretty easy to get along with,
Yeah.
but everyone would think that they're easy to get along with, but
That's a
everyone's
good
not,
point.
right? And so, but I always, when stuff has to be said, and I'm not gonna always be able to brush your hair. Like, sometimes I gotta, rough your hair up a little bit, and but it still doesn't mean that it's not coming from a personal place. It's coming from a place to where, hey, like, I want you to be the best you can be, and this is what we're doing. Like, hey, we can give you the information, and we can let you know this is our level of expertise in this. But if you're not going to take it, and then what happens that we told you was going to happen, hey, I got a paper trail, and please don't try to throw me under the bus about it because I'm trying to help you. But at some point, like, we have to know we don't know everything. And I'm working on my PhD right now at Liberty,
Hey,
and what
congrats.
that what that actually has shown me is that if the corner of the room is what I know, there's a 6,000 square foot weight room that I don't know. And that's the biggest thing in that I've learned as working on my doctorate is that, man, there's so much stuff out here I have no clue about. So I'm never gonna say, well, I know this. Like, if somebody's gonna make a suggestion, like our track coaches want the dumbbell snatch put in, um, I'm a little iffy about the snatch in regards to, like, I like to build shoulder stability before I want to work that before I go into snatch teaching. Because that shoulder girdle is so imperative in the snatch teaching. So what can we do to meet halfway in the middle, so that way we can make sure that you're getting what you need? Because ultimately you're just searching for triple extension. So maybe this is a better way to do the triple extension until we can get them to where they need to be to do the dumbbell snatch. It's always easier when you have data as well to back it up. So I'm very research based. So I will give the coach an article in a heartbeat. If you're not willing to read this, then you're going to have to trust what I'm telling you. If you're willing to read it, you'll see now that you should trust what I'm telling you because I read this as well. And it's just been, a great approach. Again, like, do I get along with every single coach on staff? Some of us have personality clashes, but also at the same time, when it's time to do my job, like no one's gonna ever say, well, Coach Thompson doesn't want me to win a championship. He tried to throw a ratchet set in my gear and tried to tear up my gear set. And that's not gonna ever happen.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Vitruve VBT. With Vitruve, you can accurately measure what speeds your athletes are moving the bar. No longer do you have to program simply based on sets and reps. You can program for your more mature athletes based on the velocities that they are hitting. You can accurately measure at a great price with Vitruve, and you can have this integrate with your TeamBuildr, making it simple so you no longer have to write down the recorded reps from other devices. Everything in one place with Vitruve VBT. Check them out in the link down below.
So one of the questions that I had for you hearing you talk about that is the difficulty of when or not know, because you don't definitely know, but like you can see a path that somebody's on. And you're like, man, this is not the best path for you. Like we need to change this path, or we need to try to intervene. And hey, I'm giving you this advice, and changing their intent when they're in the weight room or their focus, and they're just like, whatever. Coach Thompson had no idea what he's talking about. Coach Lehman don't know what he's talking about. How do you speed that up, or just understand, like, man, understand just how difficult it is to see an athlete struggle when you're giving them the advice and you know that it can help them, but they don't do it. That's something that a colleague and I talked about literally Wednesday at the end of the training session, or no, Thursday, yesterday. Like, how can we get through? Without them having to fail on their own, because we don't want them to fail? Or is the answer that they just do have to fail sometimes?
They have to. You have to. I think the biggest thing in society today is that we're so afraid to let these kids fail. And failure is just a part of it. Like, especially when we're maxing, the one of the last things I leave them with is that we're doing this to failure. So if you fail on the rep, it doesn't make you soft or childish or terrible, because at the end of the day, anyone that laughs at you failing on the rep was too afraid to try themselves. And hey, you didn't make the rep. I make the room cheer even when someone fails, because at least you had the fortitude to try it. And so, I think that's a big part of the world today right now, is that, we can, like, everyone will point their finger at you the moment that you fail, but then they aren't trying. So now I'm like, to hell with you laughing, because you didn't even have the fortitude to try it. You didn't have the balls to try what I'm doing. So failures are part of it. And, everyone just talks about how many times they failed. Like, you think about Kobe and Jordan and Brady and like all the great people, they failed, and they failed a lot. And the thing is that, everyone talks about mental toughness and, running all these damn gassers and and stuff that it can play a factor into it now. Okay. I'm not saying that there's no place for it, but I'm also saying that the true measure of adversity and mental toughness is if you can get back up off the mat when stuff's just not going well. We have a kid here. He's a corner, and man, his story is so amazing, because he started off just down the road, just doing things and like not just going through the motions, man. And now this kid is one of the best corners like I've seen, just because he took his adversity, and he took his lumps, and he took his punches to the face, and man, like, he just put his mouthpiece back in and just stood back up in the corner every time. And to me, that's mental toughness. Like, to me, mental toughness is about, like, I could tell you, man, like, I had a kid at 16, man, and the day after I turned 16, I had a son, and it's crazy. He looks exactly like me, but he's 6'6". He's graduated from college, and everyone's like, "Oh man, you had a kid in high school. Like, your life's over. Like, you're not gonna be able to do." yeah, my dream was just a little bit delayed, but it wasn't denied. Some people will be able to take the airplane and fly and cruise to their goals, right? Other people like me, we may have to hitchhike, we may have to catch a ride, we may be able to get a car and drive a little bit, we may have to take the side streets. But either way it goes, the destination is still the same. It may just take me a little longer to get there. And those are the stories that I'm able to share with my athletes, and never be afraid to share where I fell short, where I failed, where I succeeded. So they'll understand, hey, maybe I can do this, because you want them to believe that they can do it. And then two, let them know that, everyone paths in the same. So, no one's going to post their low lights on social media, right?
No, they should.
No
They
one
should do
is.
something like that.
Everyone's gonna post their highlights. No one's gonna post their low lights. And comparisons the thief of joy, and I try to remind everyone of that on a consistent basis.
That will preach. The question that I wrote down as you were talking about that was words and definitions, because you talked about mental toughness, and if you talk about it, and I mean, shoot, just ask your own staff. They're going to say different definitions. If I say, hey, what is this? You'll be like, oh, it's a coffee cup. Like, everybody knows what it is. And Kira's talked about this before. By definition, a good definition is hard to vary. Everybody knows what it is. How detailed and intricate do you get with sport coaches and your staff and players of like, hey, if we're going to talk about mental toughness, if we're going to talk about discipline, this is our definition at Bama State of this specific word, and this is how we're going to measure it, and this is the things that we're going to do to drive the needle and be better in terms of, mental toughness or whatever it is.
Taking a quick break from the show to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Powerlift. Powerlift is located here in Iowa in the United States of America. I've utilized them back in 2011 when I had them at Harvard. I also had them at the University of Maryland, and then finally when I was at the University of Iowa. Their equipment is strong, it is durable, it is dependable. It's also customizable based upon whatever your needs are at your school. Check out Powerlift at the link down below.
That is a great question. I just think that here, at Bama State, like you said, everyone's going to have different definitions of words, right? But here, like, the way that we want things to be seen is that with mental toughness or with discipline, like, that stuff starts within yourself first. And then also, it's got to always start from the top. And a great coach by the name of Tory Beckton told me that we have to be more stubborn than the kids. And that is, like, ever since he's told me that, it's just been in my mind. Like, no matter how stubborn you want to be, I can be just a little bit more stubborn in order to get what I need from you. And so, like, that mental toughness thing, like, it's certain buzzwords now in the field, in the coaching world, that, mental toughness, discipline, mental toughness, discipline. Like, everyone wants you to be mental toughness and discipline. And I think the biggest thing with discipline is discipline is doing the little things that you don't always want to do, right? Like, discipline is cleaning up the weight room and making sure all the plates are turned at the end of your workout session, even when you're tired. Discipline is cleaning the locker room after a loss. Discipline is being able to hold yourself accountable to do the things that you don't want to do, even to do the things that you're supposed to do even when you don't want to do them. And, like, that's the way I see those words. I explain to you, like, my vision of mental toughness is being able to just push past preconceived limits and being able to keep getting up off the mat when things get hard. And so, like, my staff, of course, like you said, everyone's going to have different words mean different things to different people due to experiences. And so, like, I'll always ask people, like, why do you define mental toughness as this? And to hear the reasonings behind it, like it makes you really understand how people tick a whole lot more. And so, like, experience is the key to life. And learning from others' experiences kind of helps you kind of foreshadow certain things or see some things that could be coming down the pipe, because I learned this experience from this coach or from this coach. And hey man, look, have you ever dealt with this? No, I've never dealt with this before, but now I have it in the back of my mind that if this situation ever pops up, this is a way I can handle it.
That's a really good point about, their lived experience, and that's probably what it is. And I think that's more of where it's going with the question of like, it's then, is it best to allow coaches to have their own definition of what mental toughness means for their teams, or is it best to have a unified vision and then it kind of branches based off of that team? Like, and I'm not asking because I know, I'm asking because I'm legitimately trying to figure it out myself.
It's really a weird dynamic, right? And it
Yeah.
really depends on your team, I think.
Good point.
I think that your team can determine if you should have a structured, this is what mental toughness is, what we're looking for, because ultimately a team takes on the persona of their coach.
Mm.
And you know what they said on Remember the Titans, like it's a reflection of leadership.
Yeah.
Like, and it really is, man. Like how your team functions or how they don't function is a direct result of how you're leading them. And I'm reading this book. It's called Unstoppable Teams by
Okay.
Alden Mills, and it's a really good book, from a guy that created the perfect push-up and created the and was a part of was a Navy SEAL. Which I always have the utmost respect for the Navy SEALs. Those guys are some bad asses, man. And so, like in a former life, like I wanted to go to Navy SEAL. Like I wanted to be a SEAL,
Yeah.
and then like I had a kid, and it was kind of like, and I had another kid, and it was kind of like,
It's hard to
I
leave the
don't know,
family. That's what I think
hard.
about, like with the our servicemen and women, the fact that them and their families, what they do, like that, not only what you're putting your life on the line with, but like being away from your family that long to go and serve as well, like that doesn't get enough recognition.
Yeah, doesn't. And the what they do for us, like we're grateful for everything they do for us, so we can sit on podcasts and be strength
And yeah,
coaches,
exactly.
you know. And but then, like you said, man, that sacrifice is on another level in regards to family, because I know how I am about working a lot and not being able to spend as much time with my kiddos, and it takes a toll on you, right? And the collegiate world, like I don't know, man. Like I always appreciate coaches that have an understanding of that work life balance, because like I can't. It's hard to pour into athletes when there's nothing in your cup.
Mm.
Hard to.
Amen to that. So what do you do to fill your cup up then? What is it that gets you going? How are you able to fill up?
Honestly, right now, I don't have an answer to it. I work a lot right now just because we're down a person.
Uh,
And I picked up cross country, track and field, cheer, as well as me having volleyball, softball, and football. Football is probably 5 sports on its own. So, and then also I'm an admin, and my kids are, um, like when I do get an opportunity to refill the cup, it's normally with my family. And also I love to fish. Like love crappie fishing. If I could crappie fish, if I won the lottery, I would go to every crappie fishery in the country and catch crappie on a boat and just be happy. That's
sounds
just.
nice.
I read a lot. Also, I'm reading 2 books simultaneously. I got the Unstoppable Teens book, and I'm also reading a book called The Way of the Superior Man.
Oh, geez.
And man, look, man, that book, I'm trying the strength and conditioning. I keep saying the sets are the sets, The reps are the reps. I'm trying to add other things to the toolbox now, like leadership and, becoming a whole individual
Yeah.
to be a better coach. Like, I'm going to always continue to do the CEUs, and, research comes out all the time about strength and conditioning. And that's great. But if we can't lead men and women, we can't lead our staffs, it doesn't matter. They don't care about what you know.
Amen to that. And I think that's a great place to end it. By the way, Strength Coach Network, we now have CEUs for the NSCA and the CSCCA for everything that we offer. So we're able to help coaches be able to obtain and stay certified too. So that's a little something new that's happened.
We need that because, oh man, like you already know, I'm never taking this certification test again. So whatever I got to do to get those CEUs, I'm gonna do them because I'm not sitting in that exam again.
Amen to that. Well, what's on the PhD topic? What are you researching?
There's not a lot of research in American football. A lot of the research that I do pull and use for training sessions and things of that nature is from the rugby sector.
Okay.
So I'm extremely interested in understanding more about hamstring injuries. That's a topic that I'm exploring. I'm also kind of exploring how the differences are between, football athletes and track and field athletes as far as acceleration and max velocity goes, because we know that within American football, we have to get up to top speed a lot faster than, the traditional 100-meter runner can reach top speeds right about 60 to 70 meters, and then they can maybe hold it for 10 meters, and then after they hold it for those 10 meters, then they start to decelerate, which made Usain Bolt what he would do such at a high level, because he was accelerating all the way up to 70, 80 meters, could hold it from 80 to 90, or hold it from 90 to 100. Everyone else is starting to slow down, and he's still speeding up. So it's being able to figure out ways to understand acceleration in max V in regards to American football. And I want to try to look at, Lyle talked about on his podcast with Connexon about, exit velocities when it comes to change of direction, because, football is a game of change of direction and reaccelerating. So those are kind of the things that I've been extremely interested in. I'm going to narrow it down soon. I have 6 more courses, and then I start my dissertation work. So within the next year or so, like, I got some time to kind of really narrow it down and get to work on that.
Well, I'm gonna have to have you back on once you've completed that process so you can share. Excited.
Hey man, it's gonna be. I think with that paper, it could be, you know, one of the bigger papers in regards to getting faster with football, because, name of the game is speed, but you and I both know that, like, there are some guys that can absolutely run, but, they're not real good change of direction wise, or they're just not really good football players. So what comes into that with the whole ACL decel thing?
Amen. Best of luck on the research, and we'll be in touch. Thank you for spending the time and educating us, Coach.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me.